Well, on this very cold morning, here we are in January in a cave that has had many names over the years. But the cave, the most official name for this, I guess, is Altendorfer Cave, after the old mushroom grower. It's a German name. Many of these mushroom caves were operated by Germans or other ethnicities involved. Of course, it was initially founded by a Frenchman, Mouchenot. Then you had Italians like Basiglia, and so Altendorfer was another immigrant family came along, decided to grow mushrooms here. I see in recent years, though, that this is a lot of YouTube videos called a Zen cave, and I think that's because there used to be on the cliff like a big head of a Zen monster or something like that at the entrance of the cave. But somebody destroyed that. I don't know if that's Public Works or somebody else who was, trying to just make the cave not so obvious. That's a good thing. Another name for this cave is Cave 532, because it was 532 Water Street. And I'll say more about that in our next stop. But this is one of the caves that, after the publication of the book Subterranean Twin Cities in 2009, there was a great wave of digging that passed through the Twin Cities, especially St. Paul in the years following, and a lot of the old mushroom and brewery caves were dug open that had been sealed for many years. And this is one of them. You could initially, I remember for years you could only get into this room down here. And then it subsequently dug open there and opened up the rest of the cave. But we are here today, I should say. The reason we're here is we are sort of like volunteers for the DNR here. They need a bat count done in this cave, and we're here to do that today and look at some other historical features that we'll talk about later. And I see that the sign here is this. Sign indicates that this is a bat hibernaculum, so we don't want to minimize any disturbance of the bats. But the possibility remains that the northern long-eared bat could be here, and I was specifically requested to look for that. So with that, I guess we will head over towards the ponds. And that way, and we'll see what we find over there. And here we are at the cave, one of the cave lakes in Altendorfer Cave. You can see it right in front of me here in this sandstone alcove. It is a pond, cave lake or pond of varying You can tell the water level goes up and down. You can see that, that watermark like about halfway up the wall there to that first ledge. And also on the bottom of it is mud cracked. So it's been just like bone dry at some other times. But where does this water come from? I thought for a while that there was a reversed hydrologic gradient in this cave. Now most of the, when you enter, come into the Altendorfer cave, you come down through that sinkhole, and there's water coming in. There's a stream coming down from the top of the cliffs from Cherokee Park. And it's running down a ravine, and part of the water detours and comes in the cave entrance, what's your luck in that? And so some of these ponds in here are due to that stream. And so it looked like water is actually kind of flowing uphill in these ponds. They're kind of staircasing upwards in the cave in elevation, but I think what it is rather, it's actually just, it's just the water table and the sandstone gives it that appearance. But these cave lakes are where we the wetter areas where you expect cave fauna. I mean, you have a better chance of finding bugs, as it were, that, if you're searching for things like that, they like that moistness. I was looking in this pond for the freshwater shrimp. I don't see any. This would be a typical habitat for them if there was sufficient organic matter. I'll point that out. Well, we've made it to the party room in Altendorfer Cave, and it is festively decorated for the Christmas of 2023, although that was a few weeks ago. Very nicely done, whoever put this up. Thank you. We come here, however, to discuss a little more serious topic. And that is that this cave was unfortunately ground zero for the deaths in Mushroom Valley, because we've heard of many people getting killed and injured. It's not a huge number, honestly, but it tends to make the news disproportionately, so it seems like it's a big deal. So 1984, May of 1984 was the first collapse that killed somebody along Water Street, and that was the Zielinski death, very tragic, and his friend was quadriplegified in the same disaster. Apparently, this big chunk of the roof came down. Very, very tragic sort of event. But one of the things about this is it leads me to believe, from having reviewed the newspaper coverage and stuff, that we've been sold a load of bull about this cave, actually. Because you read in the clippings that after the tragedy, there was this demand from the public, from the parents, that, as always under the tragedy, something needs to be done about this. And it seems what happened is that Public Works came here, and they realized they wouldn't be able to demolish the entire cave or something, so they just, they said the cave was sealed in the newspaper clippings. But we've come down here and we find all kinds of debris, like this big chunk here, all the stuff behind me. This is from the High Bridge. This is debris from when the High Bridge was knocked down in 1985. So a whole year after the death, when it was claimed in the newspapers that the cave was sealed, it was apparently wide open. They wouldn't have been able to bring that debris in here, right? And so part of our goal today, in addition to the continuing DNR bat count that we're doing here, is to kind of map out this debris and get an idea about, what did happen down here. It does appear that it was a piece of public works theater from the 1980s. That is, say that they, realizing that they couldn't destroy this cave completely as everyone demanded, they kind of went out, brought in some big earth moving machinery. It looked like something was getting done, and really all they're doing is just kind of superficially covering over entrances, and they probably realized that at the time. Another thing that we're going to be looking at today is this barrel chute off to my right. And that's kind of a mysterious thing, isn't it? Because I already said this was the Altendorfer mushroom cave. Why would you find a barrel chute, of all things, in a mushroom cave? And what it turns out when you look into the history is that there's actually more to this cave than you realize. There was a much earlier phase. It wasn't just Altendorfer. If you go back in the old city directories, 1885, you can find that there was actually a what was known as the Reichau Brewery Cave here. So they were brewing beer, they were lagering, and this is an example of one of their barrel chutes. Now, as someone pointed out, how would a barrel chute operate? Coming down, bouncing down those steps. Well, it doesn't really work that way. Yet these steps that you see going up there, those were carved in there by just the people who carved the passage. And then what you would have is you'd set like wooden rails in there, like a keg chute nowadays. And so it wouldn't be bouncing down these stairs, just be coming down. But all that superstructure, all that stuff, all that's, of course, long since rotted away or been taken away. And so we don't see that anymore. So I guess we're going to, the plan is, I guess, maybe someone's going to go up there, take their lives and go up there and have a look. It does look kind of hairy, actually. Maybe check out the top and see if we can, just verify that was indeed that this was the barrel chute associated with the Reichau Brewery in the 18. It would obviously makes this cave very much older than we thought it was. Well, we're making our way through the cave. to continue with our bat count. And this stop is just to show you um, the debris field, as it were. Um, these gigantic chunks of the old High Bridge from 1985, and of course, on construction sites nowadays, demolition sites, they chew this stuff up and recycle it basically. But apparently back then it wasn't a big practice, and so we got like big. Got all this rebar sticking out. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what some of these pieces are. And then there's still relics of when they pushed this in here. On the walls we have, it looks like the marks of earth moving machinery. It's kind of like, maybe a blade was scraping against the wall or something as they were, pushing in these humongous bollards and enormous chunks of concrete and so on. But this is really a hazard when you're moving through the cave. Just anytime some of this stuff could shift, you could lose your balance,
get impaled on a rebar.
Fall down into one of these holes here, have something roll on you, sprain your ankle, and that I think is like the number one hazard, the day-to-day hazard in these caves. For other hazards, I got my gas meters here, so we're monitoring a lot of things, carbon monoxide, oxygen levels, the temperature, that sort of thing. 55 degrees Fahrenheit. It's warmed up a lot since it's warmed up a full 10 degrees Fahrenheit since we were at where the entrance is. So there is quite a temperature gradient in here. That's going to impact where the bats are found. They like to be in areas that are a little bit cooler than you might expect, because they got to get down. Temperature has to be low enough that they can actually get into hibernation. So if it's really toasty warm, you won't find hibernating bats at that part of the cave. Well, I'm going to continue here and head off towards the bat chamber. Okay, we're continuing here with our DNR bat count, and we're in one of the hibernaculum chambers in the deep recesses of the Altendorfer cave, and most of what we're encountering here at this location, about 24 little browns, the Myotis lucifagos. And we're just here briefly illuminating. We won't get these lights out of here in a second. It's just we had to have a little bit more light though, because I've been informed that there's a possibility there could be the northern long-eared bat, a much rarer species in here. So I kind of had to, look at each one to make sure, what species it is. So that would make a potential of 4 species in here. Little brown, big brown, I haven't seen those yet. A lot of little browns, no big browns. Several pipistrelles, and no northern long-eareds yet. Okay, well, we've completed our survey here today of the readily accessible passages in Altendorfer Cave. And I would have to say that about half of them are filled with various fills. It could be dirt, large amount of course, the high bridge debris. Another technique used by Public Works in recent years, just to close the minor openings where you don't actually need a lot of machinery, where it's been dug open, is what I call bicycles and barbed wire. And this is where who knew that stolen bicycles were a good thing to seal a cave with, but we see them at many of these entrances. They just get dumped in, I assume, by Public Works or the Parks, Parks and Rec department. And supposedly then that is that forms a seal to the cave, and it's kind of a joke. So we've also completed our volunteer bat count for DNR purposes. As we've seen more than we thought we would. I went over some of the numbers a while ago, and that is, that's a good thing, because something called white nose syndrome since 2007 has descended on the eastern North America, where our bats are, when they're in hibernation, their respiratory system becomes full of a white fungus, and it just kind of, the hyphae stick out of the bat's nose, and it's called white nose, and it's killed off so many hibernating bats. So to see any is an encouragement, and we've made absolutely every effort to not to disturb them as we came through here. Did not, just for the record, did not see any of the northern long-eared bats, which would be quite rare if we did see that here. That would be quite a record, but didn't see any of those today. Now we have an outstanding aerial artist here who's going to ascend this so-called barrel chute and have a look up there. Maybe that will help us answer this question. And such things as like whether there's an opening to the surface at the top that sealed, but if there had been an opening up to the ground surface at what time, at some the side
Oh, there's a tunnel. up here that goes pretty far.